Hey everybody, this is your daily dose of all things royal. Hello my gorgeous good-looking friends, I am back. Channel 5 in the UK released a new documentary on the Harkles. What next? So I decided to check this out because it is, I believe, the most recent documentary on the Harkles since their complete combustion last year. So I'm not sure entirely how these documentaries are put together or who commissions them, but for the most part, on the surface, they do try to appear to give a balanced view or perspective, but when you dig into the actual documentary, you realize that there were a lot of things that they left out on purpose. Now, I'm not sure if that's to help the Harkles rehabilitate their image, or is it because they are afraid to tell the truth? What I found in this documentary was that they were calling Meghan and Harry out, but they were doing it in a very politically correct way by not being too direct and giving almost more benefit of the doubt to Meghan and Harry. As they go through the events chronologically, they made it a point to skip anything that happened between the end of April 2021 all the way up to June 2022. So it does appear that they purposely omitted those events because of how damaging it was to their reputation. So what I've done with this video is I've gone through it for you guys so you can see the important pieces to it, as well as fill in anything that this documentary was missing, such as giving additional context, as well as other major events that they chose to omit from the documentary to give a full picture. When you take a look at the journalists that they interviewed for this documentary, on the surface, you would think that they were trying to present both arguments, having supporters of Meghan and Harry, especially the American Viscountess Hitchingbrook, who is most likely a paid sugar and by far the most irritating commentator that they have in this documentary and does not represent the reality of what America thinks. Shouty was also present for this, of course, bringing up the racism. Then there's Katie Nicholl. You guys know how I feel about her, who plays both sides of the fence. Not too sure I trust her, but she is here in a neutral capacity. So then they had somewhat moderate members from the Royal Rota who, yes, they do give their opinions, but they do it in a very delicate and politically correct way. In some cases, I think that they could be a little bit more direct rather than tiptoeing around the lies that Meghan and Harry have been telling since day one. Angela, I think, in this documentary was the most direct of calling it what it was that Meghan and Harry have hurt the royal family. But they didn't give her a lot of screen time, which was interesting. Also, one thing that was lacking, they should have had more diversity in who was speaking. I really would have loved to have seen Nana from GB News be present and representing her thoughts and opinion on Meghan and Harry, because she is good. You'll see what I'm talking about as we go through this video. So get comfortable and let's get into it.
January 2023. The nation tunes in to watch Prince Harry's latest interview, promoting his memoir, Spare. Reports based on the early published Spanish edition have built anticipation over what he'll say.
I sit here now speaking to you, answering the questions that you put to me, and the words and the truth will come from my lips.
The book and the interview contain controversial revelations, not least Harry's belief that his father, stepmother and brother have turned the press against him and Meghan.
My family have been briefing the press solidly for well over a decade.
And of course, no journalist in this documentary are on camera acknowledging that Meghan and Harry are equally as guilty of what Harry is accusing his family of doing.
In my mind, they have written countless books. Certainly millions of words have been dedicated to trying to trash my wife and myself.
It's very clear from the book that you know, this is Harry's position. I'm the one who deserves an apology. You have wronged me, and that's why we've been forced to leave the country. It's hard to see him rowing back on any of that.
And this is an example of what I was talking about. It's a very lenient way of calling Harry out without actually calling him out.
Harry's revelations in the book include accounts of his use of Class A drugs. He also describes a troubling fight with his brother, Prince William.
I talk about the red mist that I had for so many years, and I saw this red mist in him. He wanted me to hit him back, but I chose not to.
For once, the book, certainly lived up to the hype. A dozen stories which would have made front-page splashes for newspapers under normal circumstances.
Throughout the early months of 2023, Meghan stays out of the spotlight while Harry dominates the news. Back in the UK, the royals stay silent.
The palace strategy was just stay quiet, wait for the storm to pass, and they have been very deliberate. In the book, Harry says, "My memory is my memory," and he uses that to justify saying things which might not be actually factually true, but they're true to him.
Why is it so hard for them to just say that there were lies? They don't have to go and make it sound all fancy. These are lies that were published in the book. First of all, Harry didn't even write the book, so why are they not even acknowledging that his ghostwriter was the one who embellished these stories?
There's not the truth anymore. It's your truth and your truth and your truth. And that's, I think, very revealing of his perspective, the analysis, therapy he's been through.
I think Harry has opened himself up to the charge of hypocrisy by complaining that he would like to have privacy, but making some very private details public in his book about other members of the royal family. I think that was a bit unfair.
Harry's opening himself up to the chance of hypocrisy? No, we're there. He has proven himself time and time again for being a hypocrite. So why are we dancing around this issue?
What's more, as Prince Harry continues to tell his truth while divulging controversial secrets about his family, there is a danger of destabilizing the monarchy.
I think he has done a lot of damage to the monarchy by being so negative. He said he wanted to have his say, but it's the most terrible say that actually reflects very, very badly on him. But I think Harry's ability to bring down his father, King Charles, and Camilla, his stepmother, and the monarchy are lesser now than the book has been published than they could have been.
The royal family and the nation await the king's coronation, and the question arises of whether Harry and Meghan will even attend.
I don't think anyone really could have imagined that we would be in the situation where we're in, where we've got Prince Harry living overseas in America with his wife. Familial relationships are at an all-time low. He's not really speaking to his brother. His relationship with his father has really suffered. So I think it's a sad situation.
To understand what might happen next for the Sussexes, it's necessary to look back over their rocky road to estrangement. It all seems a world apart from their joyful wedding day in May 2018. Just 7 years earlier, Harry had watched his older brother William marry Catherine. The future heir to the throne had settled down. Pressure had been building on Prince Harry's love life after 2 long-term relationships came to an end.
The first love, Chelsea Davy, who he fell head over heels in love with.
Harry was disappointed. His second relationship with Cressida Bonus, an actor, and she too didn't like the idea of media intrusion.
I wouldn't say that Harry was unlucky in love. He just hadn't found the right one until Meghan came along.
The arrival of American TV star Meghan Markle looks set to change everything for the better.
When Meghan first appeared with Harry, she seemed absolutely perfect. The fact that she was American, she was a career woman, she was mixed race. She brought a whole lot of new things into the royal family that the royal family needed.
In this strong, striking, confident woman, there was actually someone who was very capable of handling the pressure and the scrutiny of being in the public eye.
Harry's fallen in love, and there were people happy about that. But then on the other side, there were people, papers, the mainstream papers and the tabloids, talking about her in a very negative sense. People were already painting her in ways that it was clear they knew nothing about her, but it suited their negative narrative to call her what she's not, without any evidence. It is, and it was, racist.
There were a couple of articles which were written about Meghan, which were unfair. There was the Straight Outta Compton one.
Do you guys realize that they use this Straight Outta Compton article in every single documentary that exists? And what we're failing to understand is that that article was written by an American out of Los Angeles. Also, the article was published 2 days after the announcement that Harry was dating Meghan Markle. Since then, has there been another example like this that they can talk about? I think we've beaten this horse to death. Let's put it to bed, guys. Enough.
But the overwhelming coverage of the press was positive, certainly leading up to the wedding and including the wedding. And I think most people wanted to welcome them, wanted them to succeed.
The press has always denied racism. In November 2016, Prince Harry confirmed his relationship with Meghan in a statement telling the tabloids to back off. Looking back, was this an early sign that it wouldn't be business as usual?
Let's also call out this drama queen most likely made a mountain out of a molehill to Harry, hence the reason why he was forced to put this statement out 7 days after they made the announcement that they were dating, or it was leaked by you-know-who that they were dating.
Harry issued this quite extraordinary statement attacking some sections of the media. He wasn't going to tolerate the kind of invasive techniques that once surrounded his late mother. He couldn't protect his mother because he was only a small boy.
In the explosive statement released via his press secretary, Harry also asked the media to pause and reflect before any further damage is done.
It packed a punch. It was Harry speaking in a way that he had never done before. I mean, he was talking about levels of harassment, unacceptable levels of harassment, how Meghan had been the victim of sexist, racist comments and commentary and negative articles. He was clearly a very, very angry man. And actually, to a degree, he had a right to be.
So I looked this up to see how much the press was reporting on Meghan and Harry back in the day. Well, I stumbled upon this photo. It was published on November 2nd, 2016, 3 days after it was announced that Meghan and Harry had been dating. Now, it's my opinion that it's highly unlikely that the British newspaper was able to find Doria in such a small window of time, just as she's in her car in Los Angeles, which, if you look at the bottom there, it says Coleman Rayner. Now, where have we heard Coleman Rayner's name before? Oh, right. That's the photographer that set Meghan's dad up. So now, who do you think tipped off the paparazzi? Think of somebody who is known to have done this before.
The palace thought it was unnecessarily antagonistic, and as though Harry was somehow spoiling for a fight. He went about it in an aggressively confrontational kind of way.
You could see she was just smiling the whole time and almost laughing several times throughout the interview.
It should have been one of the happiest moments of Harry's life, but he seemed anxious about how his fiancée would be treated.
You know, I tried to warn you as much as possible. Totally surprised by the reaction after the first 5-6 months of when we had to ourselves of what actually happened from then. So.
On the 19th of May 2018, the eyes of the world were on St. George's Chapel in Windsor. Everything seemed perfect. And yet, there was trouble on the horizon.
Everybody was happy for Harry. Everybody thought Meghan was marvellous. It could not have been a happier, more glorious day. But then things started to go downhill.
The wheels started to come off amid suggestions that the couple had been a bit difficult over the planning of the wedding, and that demands were being made that perhaps weren't quite in proportion with their place in the royal pecking order.
Negative reports and claims about Meghan's behaviour emerged from within Buckingham Palace.
Many articles were written about this tiara. You know, she wanted to wear a different tiara. The Queen said, no, this is the tiara you are going to wear. Then she apparently finally accepted that, but she wanted to bring it, you know, for one of her sort of hair dress rehearsals, if you like. And that wasn't allowed, and she was very upset by that. In fact, you know, it was reported that Harry was upset by that.
Claims surfaced that Meghan rowed with Kate's staff, denied by Kensington Palace. Cracks were forming in the Duchess's positive public image.
No one had any idea that this was all building up into a much bigger and wider, more troubling picture.
The reports, the tabloids, the articles that were coming out about Meghan in particular and her behavior towards royal staff, but also her behavior towards other royal members as well. The bridesmaid dress story is an absolutely perfect example of really how the British tabloid press was, in one sense, going after Meghan and making her sort of the central villain in the royal family.
According to reports at the time, it was claimed Meghan had also clashed with her sister-in-law over Princess Charlotte's bridesmaid dress. But this story would later be disputed by both Meghan and Harry.
I don't think we'll ever really know the truth of what has actually happened.
The wedding was also marred by controversies surrounding Meghan's father.
We're talking a global wedding for millions to see across the world. People are anticipating this, and what's being reported day after day to the lead up of the wedding is about her father, Thomas Markle, and is he going to come over and walk her down the aisle? Are they speaking? Have they spoken?
It was the whole farcical business of Thomas saying, I can't come to the wedding, but then photographs suddenly appeared taken by a paparazzi, showing Thomas Markle being measured for a suit, looking at a book about English landmarks. And these pictures were sold all over the world to the huge embarrassment of Harry and Meghan, who probably thought, what on earth is going on?
Thomas Markle had a heart attack days before the wedding. When it was revealed that he would not be able to attend, it was left to father-in-law Charles to walk Meghan down the aisle. Meghan's father carried out a string of interviews with the British press and continued to dominate headlines even after the wedding.
I'm a footnote in one of the greatest moments in history rather than the dad walking her down the aisle.
Millions watched this interview on ITV's Good Morning Britain as he explained why he staged paparazzi photos.
So I thought this would be a nice way of improving my look. Well, obviously that all went to hell. And I feel bad about it. I apologize for it.
There seems to have been this toing and froing of mutual accusations where Meghan felt her father wasn't being sufficiently positive about the wedding, and Thomas Markle felt that there was no sympathy for him.
And that's the thing, there wasn't any sympathy for him. And this documentary could have elaborated a little bit more into what Meghan actually did to her father, but they chose not to. And in fact, this is about as far as they go about talking about Meghan's dad. And it's so surprising that this same television station 3 years earlier did a documentary on Mr. Markle telling his story. I'm going to fill that in with a couple clips.
In a hospital bed.
But of all the issues they faced, could the most upsetting for Harry have been a rift with his own brother?
There was a brotherly discussion, which I think was voiced out of concern from William, but was misinterpreted as a lack of support. Things were said and done in the run-up to the wedding that both sides regret, but had caused irreparable damage.
That's Harry. He's quite a headstrong, impulsive young man. He's much more like his late mother than William, who considers things and is, in that regard, is more of a Windsor and more like his father.
The so-called Fab Four dream disintegrated step by step.
They wanted to do things very differently. All right, so far, but things then got a bit laughable.
There were signs that a showdown with the royal family was now inevitable.
And now suddenly we had this unpredictable couple who were going to do things in a very different way.
But the first public glimpse of this royal baby came 2 days after he was born.
I'm very excited to announce that Meghan and myself had a baby boy early this morning, a very healthy boy.
In May 2019, Harry and Meghan welcomed the birth of their first child, Archie. And it marked a clear contrast with what had come before.
I mean, I have the two best guys in the world, so I'm really happy. He has the sweetest temperament. He's really calm and...
I don't know who he gets that from.
What was really strange was that we, the press, the world, were lied to about when their baby was born. We didn't know where it was born, but we were told Meghan had gone into labour and then, oh, there's a baby. And to have this game of cat and mouse with the media, and I believe their own officials, about where the baby was being born was odd.
They were members of the royal family and they had accepted £2.4 million to renovate their house in Windsor. I think the public felt that they had a right to get excited about the birth, to maybe wait outside the hospital, wait for a glimpse of mother and baby and father to come out.
Meghan would later defend the move by saying that they were never asked to pose for the traditional royal picture.
I think that this was their way of saying, oh my gosh, the more we give to the press, the more they take and write not very kind articles about people or about our lives. So they just thought, we're going to start stepping back so that they have nothing to write anything damaging about.
But it was very much Harry and Meghan not just wanting to do their own thing, but wanting to say, we're signalling a change. Things are not going to be the same anymore. We're an independent unit, and we're just not going to be told what to do by the rest of the royal family.
Harry and Meghan took any kind of criticism very personally, and none more so than the debate over the renovations to Frogmore Cottage.
It's a collection of buildings which Harry and Meghan knocked through to be their home on the Windsor estate, the private part of the estate. And £2.5 million of taxpayers' money was spent on that. A lot has been made about the money that was spent on it, but the money has been reimbursed by Harry.
As a new family in 2019, Harry, Meghan and Archie toured southern Africa. Many of their troubles seemed to disappear.
They were the golden couple sprinkling fairy dust all over southern Africa. And then at the end of that tour, they completely shot themselves in the foot.
This led to the ITV documentary where they talked about being so deeply unhappy as senior members of the royal family.
During the tour, Harry and Meghan expressed their true feelings about problems bubbling under the surface in a revealing documentary. Meghan was asked about the impact on her mental health caused by the pressure of media attention.
Thank you for asking, because not many people have asked if I'm okay.
She did really try to adapt this British stiff upper lip, keep calm and carry on, never complain, never explain. But let's remember, she's American. We like to complain and explain.
The interview marked a sea change in the relations between Harry, Meghan, and the rest of the royal family.
The sad thing is, I think, she was just being honest about how she felt, but that interview probably made things about 100 times worse in terms of already frosty relations.
Rather ill-advised in my view, because, he talked about how, grim their lives were against a backdrop of one of the most benighted and poorest parts on the globe.
Harry and Meghan were now sharing their troubles with the world, and the global audience lapped them up.
I think that part of the fascination and the outrage thrown at Harry and Meghan, it's probably deeply rooted in jealousy in some part, right? People don't want to accept that. Be it ordinary people like you and I, or, high-profile people who just want to get in there. People think that Harry and Meghan is the next, chapter or episode of Netflix's The Crown. No, these are real people.
Christmas, Harry and Meghan went their own way once again. They spent it in Canada, not at Sandringham. The only other time Harry had missed Christmas with his grandmother was when he served in Afghanistan. And just 2 years earlier, the royal family had broken protocol to invite Meghan to the celebrations.
She is the only royal girlfriend to have been afforded that privilege. So I think the royals went above and beyond and did everything they possibly could to make her feel at home.
Their decision to skip Sandringham in 2019 indicated a much bigger decision was imminent. At the start of 2020, the Duke and Duchess dropped their next bombshell, declaring they wanted to step back as senior royals. The news seemed to arrive from nowhere and was published on Harry's Instagram page instead of via Buckingham Palace.
Essentially, on one hand, you had a royal family feeling that they were being bounced into making a decision on the couple's future, and the couple being very frustrated that the palace machinery wasn't quick enough to respond to their desire to change things.
For many, what came to be called Megxit now seems to have been inevitable from the start.
What they were angling for was not just a different kind of royal life, but a different life, and in fact, a life absent from the royals, if you like, to break free from royal duty and everything that he'd been used to, which of course is what happened.
It seems Harry was never happy with his royal role and all the attention it brought.
He struggled with being a full-time royal even before Meghan came on the scene. So when she came, she basically held up this vision of how life could be away from the royal family.
Can we get some cash money now?
Plenty dollars.
And she showed him a bigger, better, brighter future, and he took that with both hands.
The Sussexes expressed their desire to be financially independent and yet to retain some royal responsibilities. A crisis meeting was called between Harry, Prince Charles, Prince William and the Queen.
Harry and Meghan were expecting an awful lot with what they were demanding at the Sandringham summit, as it was called, when they were laying out how they thought it would work and how they would continue to be half in the royal family and half out of the royal family, and that was cloud cuckoo land and couldn't be done. You are either in or you're out, and it was definitely the Queen who said no very, very firmly to her favourite grandson, and that must have been very hard.
Harry and Meghan's final royal engagement was in early March 2020, and their troubles within the family were more apparent than ever.
There was quite a lot of tension there. There was some interesting body language with both of the brothers studiously examining their programmes and not really talking at all. Meanwhile, Meghan's there with a megawatt smile, trying to make the best of things.
And the rift was only to get worse.
People always want the most compulsive viewing and the things that are going to command the most column inches, and effectively that then translates into dollars. Are those personal and intimate revelations? So I think that will be a very tricky tightrope for the couple to walk.
In their Netflix series and Harry's memoir Spare, it's clear the Sussexes have a low regard for the tabloid media.
10 years ago, he revealed to me and some of my colleagues that he read not only every article online, but then went below the line to look at all of the comments, some of them which are obviously really poisonous. We told him at the time, don't go below the line, don't look at what all of the idiots are saying, because it's not good for you.
As Harry and Meghan explained in their Netflix series, they wanted to distance themselves from the spotlight, so moved to Canada.
I think the reason for this whole upheaval, I suspect, was that Meghan was unhappy here and Harry wanted to protect her and to make her happy. And I think she was unhappy probably because she had made some very big life changes in a very short space of time. She'd left her job, she'd left her country and all her support network in America. She had come to a new country, she'd married into a big family, and she'd taken on a new job, and she had had a baby. All of these things are huge events, and they'd happened in under 2 years.
Their plans for an easy transition across the Atlantic soon hit the bumpers when Canada said it would not foot their security bill following their change in royal status.
Security has always been so important for Harry, and he's stressed this throughout the negotiations. But this will be extremely costly.
It's like a sort of daydream. It's like a dream of an ideal world where they can have a private life and they'll be able to do whatever they want.
Days before their royal status was due to end, Harry and Meghan changed their plans. As US borders threatened to close during the coronavirus outbreak, Harry, Meghan and Archie made a dash for California.
Harry, I think, decided, probably quite impulsively, which is in his nature, to get Meghan back to her comfort zone.
Their 9-bed, 16-bath mansion reportedly cost £11.2 million. They now live a Californian lifestyle that's a million miles away from the world of the Windsors.
Their friends are not going to be members of the aristocracy with wonderful estates in Scotland to shoot grouse on, but Hollywood and a celebrity culture. Oprah Winfrey's a friend of Meghan and Meghan's mother. They're friends with the Clooneys. They're making connections all over Tinseltown.
It didn't take long for reports to emerge claiming Harry felt his world had been turned upside down and that he missed the military.
When he did leave, he clearly wasn't ready or willing or able to completely sever those ties, which is why he's continued not just with some honorary titles and sort of bells and whistles jobs, but he wanted to really continue to support particularly injured servicemen, both with the Walking Charity and with the Invictus Games. And that has obviously brought him a lot of happiness. I think that's the thing he's going to miss the most now that he's not in the UK.
While Harry and Meghan continued to settle into their Santa Barbara lifestyle, their battle with the British press continued. Again, in Spare, Harry has documented the numerous court cases he filed against The Sun and the Daily Mirror for alleged phone hacking.
He mentions it quite frequently that he believes that it was, the press, if you like, that killed his mother. And that in turn, of course, has affected him not only with his mental health, but him being, very, very protective of his own family. Harry is not going to let the press, in one sense, live it down or go away unscathed.
The pair also wrote an open letter to the Daily Mail, The Sun, the Daily Mirror and the Daily Express, signalling their intention to sever all ties with them. In the letter, they told the papers to expect no corroboration and zero engagement.
Immediately it was picked up by the tabloids and made into a story itself, and it made Meghan and Harry also, it made them seem petulant. They'll dig around even more furiously now for the sort of information that Meghan and Harry don't want to come out. So it will have the opposite effect from the one intended.
In the months following the couple's move stateside, relations with their family back home seemed amicable. Reports claimed Harry was back in touch with William, and the whole family video called the Queen.
They did the Zoom call, on the Queen's 94th birthday with Archie, and, that was, accurately reported.
And how does she know that this was accurately reported? Isn't that such an odd thing to say in the middle of this sentence?
This is her grandson. This is her great-grandson.
Despite that happy meeting between the Sussex family and the Queen, their plan to build their brand and become financially independent looks set to cause even more trouble. A deal with Spotify worth a reported £25 million was announced back in February 2021. Their recent Netflix series has been one of their biggest signings to date.
Effectively, the money that they are being paid is because of their platform as royalty, as members of the royal family.
Back in 2021, it was Harry, not Meghan, who took centre stage on CBS in America.
It's 17 minutes skit with James Corden. It is really fun. It is very showbizy, it is very celeb-y.
In an unprecedented move, he gave a candid TV interview to his long-term friend, James Corden.
I think it's quite tricky for Harry because we know that one of the things that he found very uncomfortable was the press coverage. By choosing to do these interviews, it frankly just encourages more of that stuff to be written.
On Valentine's Day 2021, Meghan and Harry announced their second pregnancy to the world. But any hopes of calming their troubled relationship with the royals at home in England? Could there ever be a place for them back in the royal family?
In the view of Charles and William, it's impossible to cash in while you are a working member of the royal family.
I think what they wanted to do was have a sort of hybrid where they could do some commercial activities and still stay in the royal family. And the Queen in particular just thought that wasn't possible. She made it very clear that they couldn't be half in and half out.
Harry and Meghan responded within minutes of the Buckingham Palace announcement, stating that they remain committed to their duty and service. It seems their quick-fire response was not well received at the palace.
I think Charles and William, and certainly the courtiers of the palace, felt that Meghan and Harry's pushback was disrespectful. It was petulant, it was resentful, and as one said to me, you don't disrespect your granny.
The scene was set for a showdown, and it came just weeks later when Harry and Meghan offered a remarkable insight into their troubled royal lives. Their interview with Oprah Winfrey played to an estimated audience of 60 million.
The Oprah interview, it's there, and it's there forever. And Harry and Meghan can never take that back. Once you've said your truth in front of millions and millions of people worldwide, and you have criticised your father, you've criticised your sister-in-law, you've criticised your brother, you can't ever take that back.
I think many of us thought that the main reason that they moved away was primarily because of the British tabloid press and the scathing articles that have been written in particular about Meghan. But we're now learning that was just part of the reason. The other part was, of course, the not being supported in the royal family. And now they're out, really, in one sense, to tell their story about how angry they are.
Normally with royals, you get leaks. But here we really have heard it from the horse's mouth.
So we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
That's racist!
What?
But certainly the most damaging allegations for the royal family were the claims made by Meghan, but subsequently backed up later in the interview by Harry, that a senior member of the royal family, who they chose not to name, had voiced concerns about how dark Archie's skin would be.
That's racist! But later on, Oprah clarified that it wasn't the Queen or Prince Philip. Well, even by just doing that clarification, that narrows down the field to, I would say, about 3 people. So by doing that made it even worse.
I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
Liar.
And that was a very clear and real and frightening, constant thought.
Liar. The most disturbing of all the allegations was that suggestion from Meghan that she didn't get the help that she needed when she hit rock bottom. Meghan's claims that she had suicidal thoughts while she was pregnant.
Liar.
Many of the claims against the family were disputed. Some palace staff responded with allegations of bullying by Meghan.
So again, here we have, in one sense, the Sussexes against the entire royal family, and if you like, the royal family in one way or another trying to defend themselves without having to publicly open up, which we know they will never do. Her husband, but the second pair of eyes were on the relationship and how it would play out on TV between Harry, William, Kate, and of course his father, Charles. We do know that Harry did write his father a letter prior to coming over for the funeral of Prince Philip, knowing that Harry was at least reaching out to his father to try to make amends, but one meeting together 1 month after the bombshell interview, I think something like this and these accusations and allegations are going to take a lot longer to repair than just one family meeting.
According to Harry's memoir, this feeling was misplaced. He faced his family alone.
With Meghan being pregnant and heavily pregnant, on the one hand, the silver lining of that is that she couldn't come over. And I think that would have just added so much stress, so much speculation, so many more articles being written about her.
After the funeral, the couple took a break from the spotlight.
So here's where the documentary is grossly inaccurate. So they just decided to forget the next 6 months and state that the couple decided to stay out of the spotlight after Prince Philip's death. That's entirely false. They were in our faces more than ever. So Prince Philip passed away in April. The AI version of Meghan was in our face the very beginning of May for this Vax Live and also to champion for women. 5 days later, Harry is on the Dax Shepard podcast calling our First Amendment bonkers. Then the very next day, the Oprah, Apple, Me You Can't See drops with Harry then
is crucial. Crazy. Lost it. Can't keep it together.
On June 4th, we were blessed with the arrival of our daughter Lily. She is more than we could have ever imagined, and we remain grateful for the love and prayers we felt from across the globe. But with the name Lilibet Diana, Harry and Meghan's baby daughter will have enduring links to the institution her parents just left.
When you start putting on, the Duchess of Sussex title on the book, because this is for commercial gain, and you cannot use a royal title for commercial gain. So, enter Piers Morgan. To remind us all, his take is slightly different to mine. He's going along the lines of how can she be writing a book about relationships with her father when she, in fact, herself has no relationship with her father, and indeed she's destroyed Harry's relationship with his father. That's the thrust of what Piers Morgan is going after Meghan for in reference to this particular book.
So after the bench buzz died down, they had to put themselves back in again and buy another award, this time for having 2 children. Then 4 days later, the mystical pearl was announced. They needed something to tide us over until the beginning of August.
Meghan Markle has made her first public appearance since the birth of Lilibet.
Yeah, it was just a bit cringy though, wasn't it?
Oh,
Did you
no.
find, isn't she an actress? I don't know.
Keep the comments.
I have such trouble because she's been so mean to the monarchy and the Queen, and I have trouble being nice to her.
Then in September, who could forget this ridiculously awful cover in which it's suspected that Sunshine Sachs helped pave their way to be on this cover. Then the following week, they go off to New York to exploit children in Harlem.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle met with second-grade students at PS 123 on West 141st Street. Harry sat with the kids as Meghan read from her book called The Bench, as Harry and Meghan attended meetings at the United Nations to discuss vaccine equity. On Thursday, they also toured the World Trade Center site, 9/11 Memorial and Observatory with Mayor Bill de Blasio and Governor Kathy Hochul.
Meghan Markle then decided to interfere in American politics. She wrote an insipid letter to the Democrat House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, advocating for paid family leave. The Republicans were not impressed and told her to stick to acting. And in the letter, she talked about the times in her childhood where she was forced to participate in middle-class activities like getting a job and also eating at a salad bar. Well, we all know she went to a private school and her parents weren't short of a bob or two. Republican Jason Smith said this: Ms. Markle's latest interference in US politics reignites the question in my mind as to why the royal family does not simply strip her and Harry officially of their titles, particularly since she insists on sending this under the pretense of being a Duchess of Sussex.
And as if we didn't see enough of The Bench or heard about this stupid book, she has to go on Brightly Storytime to read it, in which people still hated it. But then who could forget the following week, Meghan decides to call a couple senators as the Duchess of Sussex, which pissed off a lot of Americans because she was using her title.
The Duke of Sussex took part in a virtual panel for Wired on Tuesday, promoting awareness about the danger of misinformation in the media.
We know that a small group of accounts are allowed to create a huge amount of chaos online and destruction, and without any consequence whatsoever.
Well, a court hearing in London has exposed some royal secrets, with a former staff member to Prince Harry and Meghan breaking his silence, revealing what he says really went on behind palace walls.
Their former communications secretary has told a judge that Meghan asked him to work on their biography, Finding Freedom, and she sought his advice on a letter she wrote to her father in case it was leaked to the media. From royal aide to whistleblower, in an explosive 6-page witness statement, former staffer Jason Knauf made shocking allegations against the Duchess of Sussex, claiming he spoke to the authors of Finding Freedom with her blessing. The revelation forcing Meghan to apologise to the court for forgetting about her discussions with Knauf about the book. Knauf detailed text messages she sent to him saying, "Obviously, everything I have drafted is with the understanding it could be leaked. So I have been meticulous in my word choice, like using the word daddy to ensure if leaked, it would tug at the heartstrings." Knauf, who now works for the Cambridges, says his decision to speak out came on the back of several scandals involving the Sussexes, from claims of bullying to that explosive Oprah interview.
I've read great things about you as a boss, and if you read the tabloids, you can read all sorts of crazy things about being a boss.
Well, firstly, I would urge you not to read tabloids because I don't think that's healthy for anyone. Hopefully one day they come with a warning label like cigarettes do, like this is toxic for your mental health.
I'm always proud of him.
How was your grandmother? Can we have a quick word with you? How honored did you feel?
While the court hearing was happening, Meghan was back on TV with Ellen DeGeneres and opening up on the best part of her new life with Harry and their kids.
Okay, all right. Hello. I have healing powers. Can you feel my powers? I'm gonna hold this against my head. What you got? What you got? What you got? Let mommy taste some. No. So my boo loves hot sauce, so. I can't wait. Mommy wants some heat. Let's get the spiciest. Let's get the hottest.
Let's get the green.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. I'm feeling hot, hot, hot. Yes. Can mommy have a sample of this?
Yeah, definitely, by all means.
Funny one. It's a funny one. I'm a kitten. Mew, mew, mew.
If anyone knows the joys of quitting your job, it's Prince Harry. He said overnight,
Leaving work is something to be celebrated. Prue, I'm sorry, but there's a big difference between reasonable resignation and just quitting. Easy to do, of course, with the royal inheritance.
So finally, we end the year with Meghan and Harry putting the first photo of Lily books. The world was fatigued. Although nobody wanted to report on it, we were exhausted by them after all of this bombardment of in-your-face articles. Thinking that we'd have a break, nope. Come January 2022, we kick off with these lawsuits. Harry suing the government, and then suing A&L, and then you had Samantha's lawsuit, and then on top of that, the Sugars, and the many coordinated hate campaigns that Meghan's trolls were paid to execute and conduct. So now we head into April, and the drama continues there with going to see the Queen, and then Harry disclosing that in an interview with Hoda Kotb, and then you had the Meghan show.
More now on that surprise visit to the UK by Prince Harry and Meghan, dropping into Windsor Castle to see the Queen and Prince Charles ahead of a trip to the Invictus Games.
Being with her, it was great. It was just so nice to see her. You know, she's on great form. She's always got a great sense of humour with me, and I'm just making sure that she's, you know, protected and got the right people around.
And then we began polo season, which every week they were in our faces until the end of May, in which Meghan's father ends up having a stroke, but Meghan instead decides to fly to Uvalde, Texas, for a photo op to exploit these dead children. So I wonder why Channel 5 decided not to put this into the documentary. I also want to know why there's such a big gap in coverage and making the bold claim that Meghan and Harry had kept a low profile and were out of the spotlight after Prince Philip's death. So the documentary picks back up in June of 2022.
With the country busy celebrating the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, Harry and Meghan return to the UK, but keep Archie and their newly born daughter Lilibet out of the spotlight.
The baby was named in the Queen's honour, named Lilibet. So it was lovely that they were able to finally meet after everything. We haven't seen any photos of the two Lilibets together. I'm sure they exist, but maybe there was an agreement that it wasn't going to be published and used publicly.
As Harry and Meghan attend the service of Thanksgiving for the Queen at St Paul's Cathedral, it's clear to onlookers that royal roles have been reordered. No longer senior royals, Harry and Meghan find themselves placed on the edges of the family.
Since the Oprah interview, I think we all expected that Meghan and Harry would lay low. They've been able to air their grievances.
So the final months of the Queen's life, there were definitely positive signs that, you know, Harry at least was meeting Charles and meeting the Queen. But the problem is that everybody knew that the book was on the way.
The world finally gets to see Harry and Meghan's latest project. The first episode of her podcast, Archetypes, is released. It's part of their multi-million-pound deal with Spotify.
The podcast is the chance for them to speak directly to their audience and to their fans, and there are millions of them.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Meghan promotes it in an interview with US magazine The Cut.
Well, I think the interview with The Cut was quite significant. Meghan obviously was the front page picture. She said, talked about forgiveness and how it's hard to forgive and you have to make an effort to forgive, but she was aiming to do that, which rather implied that there was forgiveness needed for some members of the royal family. It was an interview which sort of laid down a few markers for the future. The Queen had died about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The King, his father, did try and ring him, but couldn't get through.
Did Charles phone him 5 minutes before the public announcement, or did Harry actually find out on a news app?
When he arrived at Aberdeen Airport, there was a message from Meghan that his grandmother had died. So that must have been very upsetting for him.
This is all they said about the funeral. Nothing about the walkabout and how Meghan and Harry were leaking information out to the public through their mouthpiece, Omid Scobie. Or how about the Queen's request to see Harry a few days before she passed, and Harry couldn't make the time? Perhaps maybe the major reason on why Channel 5 excluded those major events was because they directly contributed to the stress and acceleration of the Queen's death. I don't think it should be swept under the rug like what they did in this documentary, so I'm calling it out. Now, I know many of you are tired of hearing these stories, but it's so important that we keep these stories alive because, as you can see in this documentary, they clearly wanted to erase or at least try to get people to forget about all the things that the Harkles had done that led us to this point.
With the release of their tell-all documentary, Harry and Meghan, once again, the startling contents cause controversy.
No matter what I did, they were still going to find a way to destroy me.
Is that this is clearly a coordinated, highly well executed hit job on the monarchy. If you are an American and you don't know anything about the royal family and you don't know anything about the monarchy, you're going to think that the monarchy is the most racist bastion of any kind of entity that exists, that is basically just like a Klan meeting. And that is their whole premise. It's the big part of their show, is just how much racism was directed at Meghan Markle, how much racism was directed at their family. And I grew up in politics. I know a smear campaign. I know a smear ad when I've seen one. And this is as far as I'm concerned, there's a very long political ad against the monarchy designed to make Americans to hate our greatest allies in the UK. And it's despicable. And I think that Netflix should be ashamed of themselves.
They have put themselves out there, earned a lot of money from their Netflix series, and they've thrown out a lot of accusations against people.
The King is unlikely to watch his son and daughter-in-law series, and palace sources say they did not intend to respond to any of the claims.
I think Charles is very much following in his mother's footsteps by using the never complain, never explain philosophy. It worked well for his mother. He hasn't reacted to Netflix. He hasn't reacted to any of the interviews. He's hoping it will fizzle out. He's hoping that eventually Harry will come to his senses, I suppose, and realise and also run out of ammunition.
A month later, Harry's memoir Spare is published, revealing intimate details of his life and his unhappiness as a member of the royal family.
The words and the truth will come from my lips rather than using other people.
William is the heir and Harry is the spare, and that is the title he chose for his book. He was very unkind about his father, and I think that he was very unkind about Camilla.
As well as sensational claims of violence.
You know, I talk about the red mist that I had for so many years.
Harry says, my memory is my memory, and he uses that to justify saying things which might not be actually factually true, but they're true to him.
So where do Harry and Meghan go next? Have the couple built their career at the expense of their family ties?
Let's remember that's here in Britain, and we know that loyalties are mostly with the royal family over here. If you switch that over to America, it's a completely different story. There's a lot of loyalty with Meghan and Harry and support.
What?
The general theme of South Park is to take the mickey out of them and imply that, they've gone around saying that they need privacy, but they've invaded everyone else's. And I don't think they'll be very happy at being satirised like that.
If you undertake that massive publicity campaign promoting your book, while simultaneously complaining about, wanting to be a private individual, then you really can't complain.
Reach that sort of status and people start taking the mickey out of you. There is a danger that you lose the ability to sort of promote serious causes because people don't take you seriously. So that is a problem for them. They will lose some of their influence.
It'll be interesting to see how they develop in the United States and whether, there will be a level of Harry and Meghan fatigue over there. Maybe they never will.
Really sure if these people pay attention or they're just saying this to help Meghan and Harry out, but we have been exhausted for the last 2 years, so what are they not understanding?
After 5 troubled years, Harry and Meghan seem further apart from their royal relatives than ever.
I think many of us expected for them to just live a quiet life and become financially independent. Here we are, and you also have enormous seismic shifts in the relationship with the royal family and Meghan and Harry that none of us could have expected.
How popular are the Sussexes with the British public?
Harry and Meghan's popularity have gone down in the polls considerably. I don't think the Netflix series and the book have actually increased his popularity, quite the opposite. He's, probably looking back and thinking, well, I've made a lot of money out of it, so mission accomplished. But there is a problem with them going forward.
I don't think they're getting very good advice at the moment, and I don't think they are thinking a lot of these things through.
With all eyes on whether or not Harry and Meghan will attend the coronation, what can we expect to see next from the controversial couple?
Well, the Sussexes reportedly have other projects in the pipeline with Netflix, non-related to the royals, and I think that would be good for them to concentrate on those for a while.
I wonder whether Meghan will go back to acting. That's the obvious thing for her. Harry easily could be a presenter of wildlife documentaries. He has the knowledge, he has the passion.
I think Harry and Meghan have built themselves a new life. They've built themselves a new career in America, but it's been at the expense of his relationship with his family. I don't think that's gone down very well.
You think? This was like the one thing that I can 100% agree on. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm being too hard on this documentary, or do you think that they missed the ball? These major events that Meghan and Harry had executed on seem to be glossed over or swept under the rug. And I'm sorry, but what's next for Meghan and Harry should be karma. And that is what really needs to take place. Forget about more opportunities for these two because they've done enough damage that the world needs to fully see what they have been doing over the last 5 years, because it will continue if we allow it.
It's a very, very heavy price to pay, but only time will tell if he thinks it's worth it.
Channel 5, this gets a thumbs down. You need to do better. And on that note, that's all I have for you today. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!
You're such a fraud.